Hello and welcome back to the Deep Dive. It is Sunday, the 1st of February, 2026. If you're listening to this, you've likely had your morning coffee, you've checked your phone, and you're probably, well, staring at a headline that, even for us, feels slightly surreal. We are not just talking about tennis today. We're talking about the sort of seismic shift that happens, what, maybe once a decade, if we're lucky?
It's one of those mornings where you look at the score line, then you look at the stats, and then you have to look at the birth certificates just to, make it make sense.
Absolutely. The headline, for the three people on Earth who might have missed it, Carlos Alcaraz, the world number one, has defeated Novak Djokovic, world number 4, in the Australian Open men's final.
In 4 sets.
The scoreline was 2-6, 6-2, 6-3, 7-5. But just reading the numbers doesn't really do it justice, does it?
Not even close, no. If you just see Alcaraz wins in 4, you assume it was a standard day at the office. But this was a proper scrap. It was a comeback. It was a tactical war. And honestly, it was a passing of the torch that felt a bit more, a bit more violent than the poetic fading of the light we usually talk about.
That's a great way to put it, and that is the mission for this deep dive. We aren't just going to recap the forehands and backhands, though we will because, my goodness, some of them were ridiculous.
Absolutely.
We need to unpack the historical weight of this moment, because we are talking about the completion of a career Grand Slam.
At age 22.
Which is just rude, frankly.
It is a bit, isn't it? It feels almost unfair.
It's barely legal. So for this, we've pulled everything. We've got the post-match press conferences, the on-court interviews, the tactical heat maps, and we've been trawling through the Reddit threads to see what the diehards are saying. We're going to look at the tactics, the Rafa factor, which we definitely need to get into, and the fallout for the rest of the tour.
And I think we need to be clear about the tone here, don't we? We've been hearing about the new era for about 5 years now. Every time a young player hits a nice backhand, we all shout, "New era." But this, beating the 10-time champion, the Titan of Melbourne, on Laver Arena to complete your set, that's not a prediction anymore.
No.
That's a receipt. That's the proof.
Right. Let's start with that history then. Section 1, the history makers. The what just happened of it all. So Carlos Alcaraz becomes the youngest male player in history to win all 4 majors.
He's broken an 87-year-old record, which is just, it's a number that doesn't feel real.
It's a pre-war record. It's from a different time.
Exactly. And that context is vital. The previous record holders, they were playing a different sport, really.
Yeah.
When you look at the modern names Alcaraz has surpassed, and people like Nadal, Federer, Djokovic, it puts it into a completely different perspective.
What were their ages again?
Well, Nadal did it at 24, which we all thought was astonishing at the time. Federer was 27. Djokovic, he didn't finish the set until he was 29. And Carlos has done it at 22.
But hold on, I have to play devil's advocate here for a second. Is it completely fair to compare across eras like that? Rafa had to go through a prime Roger Federer on grass. Djokovic had to somehow get through prime Nadal at Roland Garros and prime Federer everywhere else. Alcaraz is doing this in a slightly different landscape, isn't he?
It's a fair pushback, and it's the big debate online, isn't it? But I'd argue it makes Alcaraz's achievement more impressive physically, if maybe, slightly less crowded at the very, very top.
How so?
Well, back in the 70s or 80s or even the early 2000s, court surfaces varied wildly. Grass was light and fast and low. Clay was a slow grind. You had specialists for each surface.
Right, you had your clay quarters and your serve and volley guys.
Precisely. Today, the courts are much more homogenized. They've slowed the grass, quickened the clay. Everyone, more or less, plays a baseline grinding game. So to win all 4 at 22 now means you have mastered the physical durability required for modern tennis faster than anyone in history. He isn't just winning with talent. He's winning with a body that shouldn't be this robust yet.
That's a really good point regarding the physicality, and that leads directly to the other stat that the fans have been obsessing over, and rightly so, the 7 at 22 stat. This is his 7th Grand Slam title.
7 majors before his 23rd birthday. He now matches Bjorn Borg. And for listeners who might just know Borg as the guy with the headband and the wooden racket, you have to understand, Borg was the original teenage phenomenon. He was like the Beatles of tennis.
He was the benchmark.
He was. So for Alcaraz to match that trajectory in 2026, with all the modern sports science and recovery tailored to stop teenagers from burning out and winning, it's just baffling. It shouldn't be possible.
I saw a thread on Reddit where people were already doing the maths. You know what it's like. They get the calculator out. Well, if he averages 1.5 slams a year until he's 30, and suddenly they're predicting 25, 30 grand slams. Is that just recency bias, or is that a legitimate conversation we need to start having?
I think it's both, isn't it? It's like obviously wild speculation because injuries happen. Look at CM, look at Del Potro. These careers can be so fragile.
Mm.
But the rate of acquisition is the key metric here.
Hmm.
He is acquiring majors at a faster pace than the big three did. At 22, Federer had one, Djokovic had one, Rafa had, what, two?
Something like that, yeah.
And Alcaraz has 7. He's effectively 4 or 5 years ahead of schedule compared to the greatest players of all time.
Which is a terrifying thought if you're, say, Holger Rune or Ben Shelton or any of the other guys trying to make a mark.
If you're anyone with a racket, really, it's a daunting prospect.
But we cannot tell this story without talking about the man on the other side of the net. Novak Djokovic. He's nearly 39 years old.
He turns 39 in May. It's just around the corner.
Right. And he just played an Australian Open final. I feel like we almost gloss over this because it's Novak and we just expect him to be superhuman. But this is absurd, isn't it?
It completely defies logic. Most players, even the absolute greats, are on the Champions Tour by now, having a laugh and a glass of wine after a gentle doubles match. Djokovic is still world number 3.
And he beat Jannik Sinner in the semis.
Let's not forget that. He beat the defending champion Jannik Sinner, who is arguably the best hardcourt player in the world right now, aside from Alcaraz in the semifinals.
And that Sinner match was brutal, too. It went the distance, 5 sets.
Exactly. He battled for over 4 hours with a 24-year-old in his absolute prime, beat him, and then backed it up by coming out and taking the first set off Alcaraz in the final. Even the most ardent Nadal or Federer fans in the forums, and, they usually don't give Novak an inch.
Not an inch.
They were all saying, look, I just have to respect the hustle. To still be competing for majors against kids who could literally be his children.
That 16-year age gap. It's a literal generation.
And usually when you have that gap, it's a ceremonial passing of the torch, isn't it? It's, oh, well done, young man, you beat the old legend. But Djokovic wasn't playing like an old legend in that first set. He was playing to win. And for a while, it looked like he would.
Well, let's get into the nitty-gritty of that, because for the first hour of this match, it really did look like the old legend was going to teach the kid a lesson. Let's move to our second section, the match breakdown. If you only saw the highlights, you missed the real tension.
Well, absolutely.
That first set was 6-2 to Djokovic, and it wasn't even that close.
It was a clinic, a proper schooling, and this is where we need to get a bit technical because Djokovic came out with a very specific and brilliant game plan. He was taking the ball incredibly early.
On the rise.
On the rise, every time. We talk about spot serving. He wasn't blasting Alcaraz off the court with 130-mile-an-hour serves, but he was hitting the corners with surgical precision, the tee out wide. And on the return, he was standing right on the baseline, maybe even a foot inside it, effectively shrinking the court for Alcaraz.
And Alcaraz looked panicked. Is that a fair word?
Shell-shocked was the word I saw used in the press box, and I think that's spot on. He looked like a deer in headlights. His feet were planted. Alcaraz is in trouble when he starts overhitting the forehand by, 2 or 3 meters. He was just spraying errors.
It felt like he was trying to end points too quickly because he didn't want to get into a rally with Novak.
Exactly. He was trying for a knockout punch with every shot, which is just not a sustainable strategy against the greatest defender the game has ever seen.
And the doomers online were out in full force. I was refreshing the live Reddit thread, and it was just a wall of text. He's not ready. Novak is in his head. This is going to be a straight sets demolition.
It was a classic psychological swing. But you really have to credit Djokovic. He was moving like he was 25. He was sliding into those backhands. The flexibility was all there. He was, to use the old cliche, turning back the clock. It was vintage Novak.
So what changed? Because the second and third sets were a completely different match. Alcaraz wins them 6-2, 6-3. It wasn't just that Novak's level dropped slightly. Alcaraz changed something fundamental about how he was playing.
He did, and this is the tactical maturity we keep hearing about from his camp. In that first set, Alcaraz was trying to hit through Djokovic flat, hard, fast. That plays right into Djokovic's hands because he is a master of redirection. He just uses your pace against you.
Right.
In the second set, Alcaraz changed the spin rate dramatically.
She started going higher over the net.
And much higher, with heavy, heavy topspin. He started using these big looped forehands deep into the Djokovic backhand. He wasn't trying to hit a winner with that shot. He was trying to push Novak 2 or 3 meters behind the baseline.
To give himself space.
To give himself space and time. By doing that, he opened up the court geometry. Once Novak is that far back, Alcaraz can use the drop shot, or he can step in and hit a sharp angle.
Mm.
He changed the terms of engagement.
So he turned it from a quick-fire shootout into a long, drawn-out grind.
Precisely. He made it physical. And that is a very, very cruel thing to do to a 38-year-old, even if he is Novak Djokovic.
There was one moment, I think it was early in that second set, that perfectly encapsulated the shift for me. Do you remember the half-volley lob from Djokovic?
Oh, the one that broke the internet for about 5 minutes, yes.
The shot itself was ridiculous.
Yeah.
Alcaraz hits a stinging approach shot. Djokovic is wrong-footed, he slides, and somehow digs out a defensive half-volley lob over Alcaraz's head to stay in the point. In 2015, Djokovic wins that point 9 times out of 10 and completely breaks his opponent's spirit.
You're done. You just pack your bags and go home after a shot like that?
But he didn't win the point.
No. He hit the miracle shot, Alcaraz scrambled back, they played another 12 shots, and Alcaraz ended up winning the point with a delicate drop volley. That was the turning point for me. It was a signal that magic wasn't going to be enough today. You had to win the grind, and Alcaraz was now winning the grind.
And that leads us to the father time discussion. Because by the third set, and certainly into the fourth, the energy on the Djokovic side of the net just, well, it seemed to evaporate.
From north to south, as he so elegantly put it in his press conference.
Which is a very polite Djokovician way of saying, my legs fell off.
Agrees. Essentially, yes. And you can see it in the data. The first serve speed, on average, dropped by about 10 kilometers per hour in that third set. He wasn't getting the free points anymore.
And if you don't get free points on your serve against Alcaraz,
you are running. And if you were running for 3 hours at 38 years old, against probably the fastest player on tour, the math just doesn't work in your favor for very long.
But, and there is always a but with Novak, he didn't just roll over and give up. The fourth set, this was where the real drama happened. It got to 4-4.
The hinge of the entire championship, that game.
Walk us through it, because watching it live, it felt like the air was sucked out of the entire stadium.
So it's 4-all. Djokovic has somehow managed to hang on by his fingernails. He's digging deep. And he gets a break point on Alcaraz's serve. A huge moment. If he breaks here, he serves for the fourth set. We likely go to a fifth.
Yeah, and if we go to a fifth?
Anything can happen. Adrenaline takes over, and let's not forget, Novak Djokovic has never lost an Australian Open final when it's gone the distance. The history books are wide open at that point.
So the point starts.
Alcaraz hits a decent serve, nothing spectacular, but Djokovic gets it back deep. They get into a neutral rally, a bit cagey. Then Alcaraz leaves a ball slightly short. Not terribly short, but short enough that Novak can step in. He has a mid-court forehand.
He's bread and butter.
His bread and butter. He can go inside out, inside in, whatever he wants. He's hit this exact shot 10,000 times in his career. It's routine, and he dumps it straight into the net. Not even close. Halfway up the net.
A bad miss.
A shocking miss. By his standards, a catastrophic miss. And the crowd. There was this collective gasp. It wasn't a cheer for Alcaraz. It was just shock. Even Djokovic looked down at his racket, like it had personally betrayed him.
Why do you think he missed it? Was it physical fatigue or mental pressure?
I think it's a bit of both, isn't it? When your legs are that heavy, you don't get down to the ball quite as well. You end up relying on your arm to do all the work. And under that immense pressure, the timing was just a fraction of a second off. But that was the window. That was the chance.
Alcaraz held serve to go up 5-4, and you could see Novak's spirit just crack a little bit after that miss.
The belief seemed to drain away. And then in the very next game, Alcaraz breaks to take the championship.
And fittingly, I thought, the match point was a 24-shot rally. It was as if Alcaraz was saying, I'm not going to ace you to win this. I'm going to make you run one last time.
It was the perfect summary of the match, wasn't it?
Yeah. By the end of that rally, Djokovic wasn't even chasing the final ball. He just stood and watched it go past.
Took his legs. That's the phrase the fans were all using online. And it's absolutely right. It was a brutal physical execution in the end.
Now, we really need to zoom out from the court for a moment, because the television cameras kept cutting to a very specific person in the VIP box. We have to talk about the Rafa factor.
Rafael Nadal. In the building.
He was there, and looking quite dapper in a suit, I might add, but his presence, it added this whole Shakespearean weight to the occasion, didn't it?
It really did. You had all these Reddit threads comparing it to a medieval tournament. You know, the old king sitting in the royal box watching his chosen champion, his young countryman duel against his greatest and oldest rival.
The king watching his chosen warrior. It's a little bit dramatic, but it actually fits, doesn't it?
It fits perfectly. And you could tell it affected the players. Alcaraz even mentioned it in his on-court speech, saying it was weird but an honor to play in front of Rafa. It adds a different kind of pressure. You aren't just playing for yourself. You feel like you're playing for the legacy of Spanish tennis.
And in a strange way, playing to protect Rafa's records by stopping Novak from getting another one.
There's definitely an element of that. It's the unspoken subtext of the whole occasion.
There was that wonderful video that circulated afterwards, the backstage meeting. Did you see
A
that?
hug, yes.
The hug. Nadal was waiting for him in the corridor, and he was just absolutely beaming. It was like a proud father and older brother moment.
It was the passing of the torch made visible, wasn't it?
Yeah.
We've used that phrase metaphorically for years, but here it was, literally happening in front of our eyes. Nadal, retired, in the suit. Alcaraz, sweaty, holding the Norman Brookes Challenge Cup.
Yeah.
It really felt like the Big Three era finally, officially closed its doors.
It was a beautiful moment. Speaking of which, let's talk about the ceremony. Because usually, I'll be honest, I switch off. It's thank you to the sponsors, thank you to the ball kids, and I'm off to put the kettle on. But this one had some proper spice to it.
Agrees. It certainly did. We have to start with the poor Kia CEO.
The poor bloke. Bless him.
He's just doing his job. He's the main sponsor. He's paying the bills. But he's rambling on about the new electric sedan, and the crowd is just buzzing with adrenaline from the match, and someone just yells out at the top of their lungs, "Boring!"
And the CEO laughed. He took it so well.
He did. He chuckled. It was such a brilliantly Australian moment. No ceremony, no pomp and circumstance. Just, mate, get on with it. We want to hear from the players. The fans online absolutely loved that.
But then Djokovic got the microphone, and this is where the psychology gets really interesting. He was very gracious, obviously. He always is in defeat. But there is a kind of jagged edge to his humor.
The joke about the next 10 years?
Yeah. Yes. He looks over at Alcaraz and he says, I'm sure we'll be seeing each other many more times in finals over the next 10 years.
And the crowd all cheers, thinking it's a lovely sentiment.
And then he adds this little pause and a cheeky smile and basically implies not.
It was a very telling moment. It was a joke, but it was also resignation. He was publicly acknowledging the reality of the situation. I am not going to be here in 10 years, kid. This is your stage now. It was funny, but also quite poignant, I thought.
And the fans, of course, picked up on another achievement for Novak during the ceremony, the dinner set.
Ah, yes. The completion of the runner-up slam. He has now lost a final at all 4 of the majors. He's won them all multiple times, and now he's lost them all at least once. He really has completed tennis.
Even his failures are thorough and record-breaking.
But the most significant part of his speech, for me, was the admission that he lowered his expectations coming into the tournament. He said he was genuinely surprised to even be in the final.
Which is so rare for him to say. Usually the mantra is, I'm here to win the title.
Exactly. It shows a huge shift in his mindset. He knows he's managing a declining asset, which is his body. He's no longer expecting to dominate every tournament. He's hoping to compete. That is a massive shift in the internal narrative of a true champion.
And then Alcaraz. His speech was great. Job finished. 44 complete. He looked a bit dazed by it all, didn't he?
He was hugging that trophy like it was a teddy bear, just cradling it. And when the camera panned to his dad, his father in the box, well, that got me a bit. Seeing his dad openly weeping with pride. It just reminds you that for all the millions of dollars and the Nike contracts and the global fame, at its heart, this is a family business. They've been working towards this single moment since Carlos was 4 years old.
A lovely human end to it all. So let's look forward. Section 5, the implications. The big question hanging over Melbourne Park as everyone flies home is, what is next for Novak Djokovic?
The R word is being whispered.
Retirement! Is it coming? He was very cryptic in the press conference.
He was. The quote was, God knows what will happen in 6 months or 12 months. He notably did not say, see you next year, Melbourne.
That silence was loud, wasn't it?
It was deafening. But I'm going to go out on a limb here. I don't think he retires just yet. You don't retire when you're the world number 3 and you're still making Grand Slam finals.
But surely he's not going to grind through a full season. The clay swing, the hard courts in the summer.
I doubt it. I think he becomes a mercenary, a specialist. He targets the majors. He probably plays Wimbledon and he plays the U.S. Open. He might skip a lot of the Masters events to save his legs.
So Wimbledon is the main target.
I think so.
Yeah.
It's his best chance for number 25. The points are shorter, the surface is softer on the joints, and honestly, the field is a little weaker on grass. Alcaraz is brilliant there, obviously, but Sinner is still learning the surface. He can win Wimbledon.
Speaking of needing things to go his way, though, We have to mention his paths to this final. He got a walkover from Mensik and a retirement from Musetti. He basically had 2 extra days off.
And that's the real worry for him, isn't it? He had the perfect energy-saving run to the final, and he still ran out of gas against the younger man. What happens if he has to play 3 grueling 5-setters in Paris? He has no chance. I think the days of him winning the French Open are gone. It's Wimbledon or bust for the slam record.
Now let's flip it. Let's talk about Alcaraz, the new Carlos. We talked about his tactical shift, but what does this specific win, completing the slam, do for his career arc?
I think it uncorks the bottle. The pressure of being the next big thing, the pressure of can he win the career slam, it's gone. He's done it. He has the full set. Now he can just go out and play tennis.
That is a very scary thought for the rest of the tour. A relaxed, pressure-free Carlos Alcaraz.
A relaxed Alcaraz who has now learned how to play boring tennis when he needs to. That was the big takeaway from this tournament for me. He didn't win this final by being flashy and hitting highlight reel shots. He won it by being disciplined and grinding. If he can combine his natural God-given flair with his newfound tactical discipline, he could dominate for a decade.
But he does have a rival. We can't have this conversation and ignore Jannik Sinner.
No, absolutely not. The Alcaraz era. This is the real story for the next decade. Djokovic is the final boss, the antagonist in the final act of the old era. But Sinner is the co-star of the new one. Sinner will be absolutely fuming that he lost in the semis here. He's the one who will be waiting for Alcaraz at Roland Garros, hungry for revenge.
And Sinner's game on clay has improved massively over the last couple of years.
Massively. That rivalry, Alcaraz versus Sinner, is going to define the next 10 years of men's tennis. They push each other to get better. It's exactly what we had with Rafa and Roger, and it's fantastic for the sport.
Before we wrap up, I just want to touch on some of the funnier cultural nuances we picked up from watching this. The fan forums and Reddit threads were an absolute goldmine. We mentioned the dooming in the first set, but did you see the thing about Djokovic's shoes?
His shoes, yes.
Yeah.
The camera operators were obsessed with his shoes all tournament.
They had the number 24 printed on the heel for his 24 majors.
Which is such a flex, isn't it? Imagine just walking around with your record count on your footwear. But the narrative online was that he desperately wanted to get a marker pen and scratch that out and write 25.
He's literally wearing his ambition on his feet.
He is. And on the flip side of that, in the Alcaraz box, we had his coach, Juan Carlos Ferrero, going absolutely ballistic with joy when he won.
I love seeing JCF lose his cool. He's usually so stoic and calm.
He was up, he was screaming, he knew how big this moment was. It wasn't just another win, it was the graduation. His student has now mastered the game.
And Alcaraz himself, you see him hugging the ball kids, just being generally lovable. He's an easy champion to root for.
He is. He has that infectious energy.
And finally, a quick note for our British listeners. We were represented, sort of.
Agrees. Well, Jamie Murray was in the commentary booth for the BBC.
And apparently he caught a fair bit of stick online for his performance.
Yeah, the reviews weren't glowing. I saw a lot of people asking where the mute button was for his co-commentary.
Brutal. But hey, at least we're involved in the conversation. We might not have a singles finalist, but we can definitely complain about the commentary. It's a national pastime.
It is what we do best, after all.
So let's summarize then. Sunday, February 1st, 2026. Carlos Alcaraz, 22 years old, 7 majors, the career Grand Slam, the youngest man in history to do it.
A truly historic day. I think it marks the end of the Big Three's absolute dominance. And it's the start of something that could even bigger if he stays healthy.
It feels like the tectonic plates of tennis have finally settled. The new landscape is here. But I want to leave you, our listener, with final thoughts, something to mull over with your next cup of tea.
Go on, then.
We always talk about motivation. Djokovic was motivated by the chasing Rafa's record, chasing Rogers. Alcaraz has now essentially completed the game at 22. He has the full set of trophies. What happens to the human brain when you achieve your life's ultimate goal before you can even legally rent a car in some countries?
That's a good question.
Does he keep his foot on the gas to chase Novak's number of 24? Or do we see a natural dip? Because history tells us maintaining that insane hunger is often much harder than the initial climb to the top.
That is the multi-million-dollar question, isn't it? Is he satisfied with greatness, or does he now want immortality?
We'll find out in Paris. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. It's been a real pleasure unpacking history with you.
Thanks for having me. What a match, and what a day for tennis.
Cheers, everyone. Catch you on the next one.